as we continue to wrap up the final day of 2023 predictions here on the Tailgate Nate College Football channel. We are now talking about the second and last team that is joining the FBS ranks from the FCS, and that is former 2020 FCS national champions, I should say, Sam Houston State Bearcats. And this is the team that, is maybe coming off a little bit of a disappointing season last year among the FCS ranks and entering FBS play. In Conference USA, a new look conference, there's going to be a lot of very good competition. It definitely could be a rocky road for the Bearcats this year, but can Sam Houston State elevate and become the James Madison of Conference USA in 2023, or is this team going to struggle to find their rhythm in the FBS ranks? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel, previewing, predicting, and analyzing all 133 FBS-level college football teams. This summer is almost done, so make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know, I guess, when these final videos get uploaded just later today, but also subscribe, ring the bell, so you don't miss my thoughts during the season as well. Now, let's dive into Sam Houston State here. Oh, before I talk about that, there are other ways you can help me support my channel. You're doing one right now by watching the video. You guys can do more by liking, commenting, sharing, and anything else you guys are willing and able to do to help me support my channel. Now let's talk about the Bearcats in 2023. How do we do things around here? We're going to go through a roster overview and look at who the team lost, who's coming back, and who's coming in through the transfer portal and recruiting class, as well as the 2023 Bearcat football schedule, and we'll give it good old-fashioned game-by-game preview and prediction. Yes, it is Bearcats with a K, Casey Keeler's team entering FBS play. Let's look at the roster for Sam Houston State. Starting out with the quarterback room. The quarterback room was kind of all over the place last season, but your leading passer last season was none other than Keegan Schumacher. 1,122 yards, 6 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, but this team as a whole just really struggled to pass the football last season. Only a 44%, almost 45% completion percentage for the team, 1,514 yards. The lone 6 touchdowns were thrown by Schumacher and 10 interceptions for the passing attack last season. Just not a great stat line at all out of the Sam Houston State Bearcat passing room. So maybe Keegan Schumacher can lace up his cleats and fix his game and really get going. But the quarterback answer may lie in a couple transfers coming in. Grant Gunnell is into the program, as well as Xavier Ward. And any one of those two guys, I think, could be some good options at the quarterback position as well to end up starting for this team to help fix just what was a very abysmal performance out of the quarterback room for this team last season. All right, enough about that. Let's move on to the running back room, where you are going to be losing your second leading rusher in Desmond Jackson. 345 yards and 2 touchdowns for him last year. However, you do get some nice talent coming back. Zach Herbacek, I believe I said that last name right. If not, you can roast me in the comment section down below. He was your leading rusher last year, 495 yards and 3 touchdowns last season. Jordan Yates will also be returning to this team as well. And then you do get a transfer in John Gentry that is going to be coming over from Utah State. My apologies. So you get a transfer in to help boost up that running back room. When you take a look at the wide receiver room, you are losing a pretty big piece to this wide receiver room. Is none other than leading receiver Cody Crest with 548 yards and 2 touchdowns last season, more than doubled anyone else's number of catching production on the season last year. You do get some nice solid pieces back though. Noah Smith, Alvante Woodard, and Ife Adei should be highlighting this wide receiver room for the Bearcats this season, as well as a couple transfers in it, and there are more. I just did not list them on the screen, but the two most notable I found, Quavez Humphreys and Quintavious Workman, should play big minutes for this Bearcats pass-catching unit. In the tight end room, hey, Elijah Sung, Thomas Jewett will come back, but you do get a transfer coming in that is expected to lead this tight end room in 2023 by the name of Jax State. And then on the offensive line, do get a pretty substantial loss here in Moses Johnson. And after thinking back and forth, Ethan Hagler is back with this program, one of their best, if not the best, offensive linemen on this team. De'Ari Patton is also back, and then you get some transfers in as well. Mark Kendrick, Beal, and then Grayson Jackson Smith are some offensive linemen transferring in. So this offense, I think, does have a lot of good skill position players, but they've got to up their game from last season, and this quarterback room has got to get better. They have got to find an answer to really correct and really vault into the FBS level because, again, they did not have as much momentum as they would have thought entering FBS play, so they really got to start building it early this season. Now let's take a look at the defense for this team. Who is going to be gone off of the defensive line? Well, you are going to be losing some pretty key players off of the defensive line this season. You're going to start out with your third leading tackler from last season, Toby Ndukwe. Pretty good player, 10 tackles for loss, half a sack last season. Did have an interception last year as well. You're going to be losing some other guys like Tyler Moore, Ellison Hubbard, and I believe some others that I just did not end up listing on this board. However, you do get some pretty nice pieces coming back to this team, one of which is Javon Leon. I knew I was going to mess that up as soon as I saw the name on the screen. But Chris Scott, Bryceon Hayes, Richard Outland, and some others will be coming back, as well as some transfers in. Akeem Smith and Jaden Phillips are going to be some guys that come in to this program via the transfer portal to help give some depth to this defensive line. And even guys like Akeem Smith could play some really big minutes on the defensive front for the Bearcats this year. Linebacking room, pretty cut and dry. Trevor Williams is going to be gone. That's your fourth leading tackler from last year. Did have 32 tackles, half tackle for loss. Pretty solid player, but you do get a lot of nice key pieces back, including your top two tacklers from last year. That was Kavian Gaither and Jalen Phillips. Oh, and it also helps to get Trey Fields back as well. He was a pretty key underrated part to this linebacker room from last season. Let's take a look at the defensive back room now, and you do lose some dudes out of the defensive back room. BJ Foster, really good player. He is gone. Darrell Hawkins-Williams, he is going to be leaving. And then another Trey, this time in Trey Smith. All of these guys, pretty good players, really solid players that are going to be leaving this defensive back room. However, you do still get some solid pieces coming back and some transfers that I just didn't mention here on screen. So keep in mind there are some transfers coming in that should play some good minutes, but I focused on the returners here. Donovan Adkins, Jordan Morris, Caleb Weaver, and David Fisher will all come back to the Bearcats secondary. Your head coach, as mentioned earlier, is Casey Keeley. Your offensive coordinator is Brad Cornelson. Your defensive coordinator, Clayton Carlin, is now. We will take a look at the Bearcat football schedule for 2023. Hey, any game at home is going to be underlined, while any game on the road will be in italics or that slanted text. Any game you see in green is a game that I think the Bearcats are easily going to be able to win. Anything in yellow is a back and forth 50-50 type game, but the Bearcats should be able to win, and then red is a loss. So let's go ahead and talk about the Bearcats here in 2023. And your non-conference schedule is brutal. Even the FCS team, well, they're one of the better teams in the FCS ranks. But let's start out with your first three games here, all three of which I do think you're going to end up dropping. BYU is a new Power 5 team. They are going over to the Big 12, and there is a lot of roster overturn on that team. However, Keaton Slovis, he is going to end up being that quarterback there at BYU. Of course, the former USC Trojan and Pittsburgh Panther. He's got a lot of transfers to work with. Some very new pieces, albeit, but BYU, I think, is going to be a very talented, very competitive team out of the Big 12 Conference. So a tough one to start out the year with for Sam Houston State going on the road. That will be a loss for the Bearcats. I also think you're going to lose this neutral site game against Air Force in Houston as well. Neutral site, even though, again, Sam Houston State likely more so the hometown team. However, Air Force plays a very aggressive style of defense. It's their bread and butter. It returns a lot of talent, even for as much overturn is going on with this Air Force Falcons offense. I don't think that it is going to be enough overturn. And again, that defense is not going to take a step back for Air Force this year. Sam Houston's got a lot to work with offensively. Some pretty good players in the skill position room, but that quarterback play needs to improve. So that'll be a loss for Sam Houston State. And then you got to go on the road to play your in-city counterpart in the Houston Cougars, another new team that is joining the fray of the Big 12 this season. And I have you guys losing this one as well. I know Houston is losing a lot of very, very nice talent. Clayton Tune, Tank Dell, Alton McCaskill, even though he didn't play last year, would have been nice to have him on this Cougar team. There are a lot of talented transfers coming into that program, though, and I think some of those guys step up, make the difference. They will be winning this game here here against the Sam Houston State Bearcats after the bye week, nonetheless, for Sam Houston State. So now you get your first true home game of the season against Jacksonville State, a great opportunity to get your first win, and I don't think it is going to come. With as much turmoil as going on in this Bearcat quarterback room, you look at the opposite side of Jacksonville State, and while, again, linebackers, defensive backs, yeah, they're going to have to replace some pretty solid key pieces, but that defensive line, man, it's going to cause havoc for the Sam Houston State offensive line. It's going to cause havoc for this passing game. It's going to cause havoc for this run game. I think Jackson State wins the battle in the trenches, which will be key in this game, and it gives the Bearcats another loss. I do also believe Liberty will be handing Sam Houston State a loss. I think they're going to be one of the better teams that Conference USA has to offer this season. Jamie Chadwell is coming in. There is a lot of roster overturn, yes, so there is a lot of talent leaving, but there's also a lot of talent coming in, and I really like what the Liberty Flames have going for them entering 2023. Hey, one of the new teams in the fray of Conference USA, so that will be a win right there for the Liberty Flames, which means the loss for Sam Houston State. And then I do have you losing to New Mexico State as well. A lot of returning pieces on that offense. The defense, while it wasn't impressive last year, and it also has to replace a lot of talent, next man up is going to be key. And I do think they have some pretty solid talent. They still have a lot of good returning pieces on that side, but it starts out with the offense for New Mexico State. Has a lot of great returning pieces that I think are going to lead them to have a fairly successful season. So that's a loss for Sam Houston State there. So, man, your front half of the schedule, in my opinion at least, not looking too great. However, your back half, I think especially these next three games are a lot more favorable, and I do think you go on a little bit of a run here. Florida Internationals, I think, is going to be one of the worst teams in football this season. You lost a ton to the transfer portal, not really getting a whole lot back for it. And I just don't really like their chances competing in Conference USA this year. So that'll be a win for Sam Houston State. I also think UTEP is going to be a win here. I think UTEP's going to be a win here as well. I think Sam Houston State is going to learn from some of these games in the past that maybe have been really, really close, just not gone their way at the end. Jacksonville State, that could be one right there. New Mexico State could be another one there as well. Not to mention, you finally get a string of games at home after having only one true home game in that first half of the season. I think the Bearcats are going to get on a run. Gavin Hardison and a lot of wide receivers return to that team. But I think the Bearcats have the necessary talent on the defensive end, especially in that secondary, to be able to shut things down and will lead to a win there against the UTEP Miners. And I also believe that you are going to beat Kennesaw State, however, just barely. Kennesaw State's one of the best teams the FCS has to offer. This is going to be a dogfight here for Sam Houston State. However, I do think quarterback play is starting to get on a roll, and then they are carrying over a lot of momentum from their past couple of games. That momentum carries over. The quarterback battle is playing, or whoever is at quarterback is playing well, and that'll be a win over the Kennesaw State Owls. So, now you get into three pretty tough games here in the backstretch of the schedule. You do have a road game against Louisiana Tech that I do think is going to be a loss for this team. Too much offensively returning for Louisiana Tech. I don't think Sam Houston State's defense is going to be able to quite keep up. And while quarterback play may not have been the problem last year, definitely could have been pinpointed as a weak spot. Hank Bachmeier is in to that program now. Louisiana Tech, I think, also has a lot of very nice pieces defensively. Even though you do lose some key guys, I think that's a loss for the Bearcats, and absolutely a loss on the road against Western Kentucky. This is going to be one of the most dynamic offenses, not only in Conference USA, but possibly in college football as well. You have Austin Reed coming back. Corley, that wide receiver, is coming back as well. That's a really good quarterback-wide receiver duo. You are losing some pieces on defense, but there is a lot of nice talent there. The offense will be too dynamic alone. For most defenses to handle, that'll be the case here against Sam Houston State, and then at home against Middle Tennessee to close out the year, I also have as a loss as well. I just don't think Sam Houston has enough offensively to be able to get through a Blue Raider defense that returns so much really good and vital talent. Now, while the offense is going over a lot of overhaul, it should be more than enough. There should be more than enough there should be more than enough in the tank. That's what I was trying to say on that offense there. They should have more than enough figured out. So I do have Sam Houston State struggling here in their first season as an FBS team. However, they could prove to be a lot better. Again, really hard to project how these FBS or how these FCS teams transition to the FBS level. But I do have the Bearcats struggling. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And as always, remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. See you guys in the next video. Goodbye.